Okay, so I have an iPad now. I don't need to say that I'm better than everyone, but I can say that. However, hi, my name is Justin. Welcome back to the Lovers Podcast. Today, we're getting serious again. Last episode was unserious. I had to give you guys a little fun, a little am I the asshole situation. Today, we're talking about modern love. I have so much to say. I need to write down my thoughts, but also I have so many thoughts about modern love and modern dating written down already. So let's get into it. I don't want any further ado. I want to get right into it, actually. I wrote a piece earlier this year called Modern Love and Other Myths on my Substack. If you don't know what Substack is, Substack's basically a website that you can publish kind of like newsletter blog situations. I think it's really cool. I actually got introduced to it by my friend Kira. She runs her own podcast and she also runs her own Substack newsletter. Her newsletter is Kira's Court, and then her podcast is called 6 Songs 4. My Substack, however, is called The Lovers Media. Moving on from that, now I wrote this piece back in July of this year. Now, this still kind of holds true to everything I was saying beforehand. Modern love is kind of dead. I'm not gonna lie to you. I lie to people. I'm not going to lie directly to you. At this point in time, modern love is on the outs. And I took it upon myself to be a little bit of a Carrie Bradshaw, and I asked everybody on my Instagram basically what they think the hangups are with modern dating. I live in New York City. I'm 21, and I broke up with my boyfriend earlier this year in June, and I didn't have a date until like October. So, with that being said, there's something wrong here. So the inspiration for this piece that I wrote was heavily from Sex and the City. There was this one episode where they had this entire war between couples and single people. I don't know if I agree with that or not. I can't say that it's like an all-out war, but there is a level of separation that I don't think a lot of people are really talking about. Let's talk about the first part, the desert. What's the actual problem we're aiming to address? There are so many people who are my age clinging to the sense of belonging and intimacy and romance, and the fun of dating is taken out entirely. I referenced a video that was published earlier this year of me and my friend Brittany on the street. I can play it now.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how beautiful do you think you are?
10.
What about you?
A good 6.5.
Girl.
I don't.
You don't agree with her, huh?
No, I don't.
What would you give her?
A billion, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I agree with her.
I'm not good at rating myself or other people.
Like, it's you, though.
What would you say your best feature is?
My butt.
Your
I
butt?
have a fat ass.
Nice. What about you?
My empathy.
I like that.
Oh, that's a
Thanks.
nice one.
I know I'm a
That's
fucking
my
genius,
butt.
right?
And in that video, I was just ranking myself out of like 1 to 10 because a guy with a microphone on the street asked us to. And so I did. I called myself a 10. My friend Brittany called herself like a 6 or a 6.5 or a 7. And I was just like, you're wrong. You're a bad bitch. Like, you know what I mean? So after this, I got into the idea of the hangups. I'm like, what are people's ideas of attraction and how does that look on the day-to-day basis dating in New York City? Most of my friends are in their early 20s. With that being said, dating shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be this like huge task that we're like bearing on our shoulders, right? You know what I'm saying? Dating should feel fun. It should feel like a breath of fresh air. I love the idea of meeting new people. However, a lot of people are just either scared to do so or they'd rather not because of their experiences having dated in the past, not living up to their expectations or actually diminishing their expectations, right? So if we're looking at the actual hangups, I asked everybody on Instagram what they think the hangups are in modern dating. I can read some of the quotes for you here. Someone said, because I'm not invested enough and not mentally prepared for one. That makes complete and utter sense. Loyalty has hit an all-time low. I wish I could disagree with it, but I actually don't. Addressing these first 2 points, I talk to my dad every now and again, and he's a very like old New York type of person. Like he's been in New York since the early 60s. And he was basically telling me that one of the bigger issues with my generation is that we have no loyalty to one another. I agree. I've always been a very self-reliant person. Right now I'm like currently breaking out of that, but kind of just like learning how to be an adult, but also not being afraid to ask for help when I need it. I don't know how many of us are in the same place as that, but judging by the people that I know, it's a lot. With loyalty being at an all-time low, nobody wants to trust each other because we know that there are issues that come with trusting each other, right? And like the first person said, saying that you're not invested enough and you're not mentally prepared for one, that is completely valid. None of these quotes, I believe, are invalid or wrong in any way, shape, or form. They're more so just perspectives that are different from my own. That's what I wanted to do with this post. I wanted to reach out to like everybody that I know, see what everybody collectively understood the idea to be, that modern love is kind of on the outs. And with that being said, my next point is everything is now transactional. I'm inclined to agree with that as well. Talking about this, I absolutely despise the 50-50 debate. Now, the difference between me and a lot of the other people dating in New York at this time, I'm not a girl, and also I'm gay. So, with the idea of dating in the modern age being transactional, that can look like a lot of different things, right? As a gay person, most of the dates that I go on, I pay for my own stuff, the other person pays for their own stuff, and we either just like split the bill or itemize it, right? However, in straight relationships, there's this idea that the men should pay for everything. Yada, 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 yada. I'm not the person to talk to for that. I'm just asking the questions here. So, from Anthony saying that everything is transactional, it's great to see that everybody kind of understands that there is a lack of loyalty. Mentally preparing yourself for a relationship in your early 20s is kind of just hard given everything else that we're dealing with. And then people are in for their own personal gain. Now, I can't say that's a wrong thing. I can't say that's the right thing. I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can while also saying that modern dating sucks. People put too much weight in it and expect it to save them. I've dealt with this mentality myself, where you are kind of just like floating around looking for a reason to exist, and the only thing that makes sense to you is a love life, right? Like, I was like 17, 18, 19, laying in bed in like a dark room, just manifesting in my journal night after night about the perfect person that I want to just like kind of not like save me from myself, but more so just like make the rest of my life feel easier. That is kind of relating back to Anthony's point about everything feeling transactional, right? Because when you are dating, and if you're trying to be mature in a relationship, you don't seek out a relationship to save you. It can make a lot of the other aspects of your life easier, but it can also make a lot of the other aspects of your life a lot harder. So, for those people expecting romantic relationships to save them, that I can say is wrong. There are trust issues, abandonment issues, and commitment issues. I was actually talking about that in my first podcast episode. I titled it Nobody Cares. Everybody has their own issues. Everybody has their own baggage. The idea that we're trying to work towards is working through those issues. We have dating doesn't suck in 2024. It has for years, and it's at its peak now. I plan on having guests on in later episodes, probably like after episode 5 or so, just to get more perspectives on what it means to be in love or love people. I feel like I could talk about love all day. And if you're listening to this, that's why you're here. I'm gonna hope so. So, when we look at all of these issues, it's hard to identify a common factor of what is making everybody so avoidant to modern dating. The culprit. We all know her. We all know who the issue is. Are we all gonna say who the issue is? I have actually 2 things that I can say. I could say social media. That's what I wrote in the Substack post. I could say that social media is the actual issue here, right? This comparison tool, we all swear we're better than it, and, you know, there's just this highlight reel of people's lives that you get to view when you feel like you're at your lowest. I was talking to my professor about this in class, actually, or she brought it up rather, that kids who go to high-achieving schools are a pretty new at-risk group of people, and that comes from this idea that we've been fed in society of never being enough, right? There are so many options of who you can be and what you can do, and there are not enough ideas of how to equate your personhood to the actual impact that you have. So I go to NYU, great school, and this is the first time that I've ever been actually like proud of the college that I go to. I went to a community college before this to get my associates. I got it, I was excited to graduate, but I didn't walk on the stage or anything. I just wasn't feeling it. Am I gonna walk for graduation at NYU? Absolutely. The difference is not in the bachelor's and the associate's degree, it's a difference in how you see the things that you have already. When you think of the idea of community college, you're not sitting there just like, wow, how prestigious, how, like, congratulations. Whenever I tell people I go to NYU, congratulations. So with that being said, swinging it back to social media, there's this inherent thing with human beings where we just feel the need to compare ourselves to others and harbor this emotion of envy, while there are so many other better things to do with our time. But social media is a tool that has both helped and hurt us as a society. But at large, we know who the issue is: capitalism. I wish I could say I was joking, but everything boils down to capitalism. I never hear anybody say it, at least not like broadcast. No, I'll say it on my podcast, because who's gonna check me? Nobody. The issue is capitalism. It's always been capitalism. It's never not been capitalism, actually. And, you know, I say this thing where I believe that the issue in your life is either gonna be your parents or Ronald Reagan. Both of them are products of capitalism. Modern love is a myth because of capitalism. Y'all, turn it on! So, that being the actual culprit here, I have more quotes on people's thoughts on how social media is the actual issue in the modern dating world, that everyone only cares about seeing themselves win instead of winning together. This tying back to the idea that somebody else had, who was it? Gina said loyalty has hit an all-time low. Nobody's winning together because we're all focused on our own thing. There's no idea of community in our generation because capitalism is one of those things that breaks apart community, right? And with that being said, if we're living in this hyper-individualistic culture, nobody's sitting here looking for the love of their lives if they know that they're gonna go hungry, right? I was gonna get into like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm not gonna do that right now, and I don't have the bandwidth. Somebody else said people are having blanket understandings of people that they've never experienced, and social media has too much of an influence on love. That's true as well. If we look at dating apps, there's only this broad idea of who people can be based on like 6 pictures and a couple of prompts that are pre-written for you, right? If we're focusing on what it means to actually love a person, there is no generalizations. There are so many nuances that come with being a person who wants to be in love. I have moments all the time where I just like flip-flop in between. I kind of only want to be single, and then when I'm single, I only want to be in a relationship, and it's just this cycle of discontent that we find ourselves in when it comes to dating in the modern day. The individualism as a whole has seeped into dating. People don't know how to care about others. Everyone is dealing with capitalism, but they think it's their fault and they need time away. Just like I need to lock in, but no, we need to turn to each other. And also the climate is changing and the men are not. Yes. That's another thing. I'm absolutely going to make this deeper than it needs to be. If we look at the idea of what it means to be in love in a couple decades from now, I feel like it will be somewhat shifted given our ideas of the world we live in, right? I have a very nihilistic attitude on life. Like, half the time, I want to say. I'm very optimistic the other half of the time. And I always wonder to myself, are things actually going to get better? Am I wasting my time? Is anything that I'm doing worth it, or is any of it enough? When the world is kind of crashing down in front of you and nobody's doing anything about it, it always truly feels like, it's your issue to deal with. I remember when I was like in high school, I had this realization as well. Everybody I knew was telling me that it was just like an issue with me, except everybody that was older than me anyways. They were telling me that it was like an issue with me and my perception of life, and not this perception of life is very real and very understandable and very rational, but they have also been conditioned to work on themselves and think that they are the issue entirely. However, we're all working under the same system and we're all getting the same results for a reason. You know what I mean? So, what do we do next? I'm not going to sit here and act like I have answers for you, honestly. The real answers that I've been taking away the past couple of months or so since I wrote this post is try to stick together. Community goes a long way when you are trying to find actual love. And honestly, I'm gonna be so like Tumblr core right now, but read this book. All About Love by Bell Hooks is one of my favorite books that I think I've ever read. I like actually beat it up, if you can see, if you're watching this episode anyways. And the reason why it's beat up is because it's just such a insane book. Look, I just went to page 121. She says, much has been made of the fact that so many 60s radicals went on to become hardcore capitalists, profiting by the system they once critiqued and wanted to destroy. But no one assumes responsibility for the shift in values that made the peace and love culture turn toward the politics of profit and power. That shift came about because the free love that flourished in utopian communal hippie enclaves, where everyone was young and carefree, did not take root in the daily lives of ordinary working and retired people. Young progressives committed to social justice who had found it easy to maintain radical politics when they were living on the edge on the outside did not want to do the hard work of changing and reorganizing our existing system in ways that would affirm the values of peace and love, or democracy and justice. They fell into despair, and that despair made capitulation to the existing social order the only place of comfort. As long as we stay comfortable in our fears, that's as far as we're going to go as a society who can truly say that they have worked towards experiencing love. Now, with that being said, that's the end of this episode. Listen, I made such a point to get everything out like within 30 minutes. I made it to this 26 mark, and I think I was talking a mile a minute, honestly. But that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe if you feel like it. Your resident anti-capitalists, will they come get me for this episode? Probably. But, I feel like it's worth it. Like, I can't afford a house anyways. What were you gonna, okay, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down below. I read all my comments on everything, or I try to anyways. And if you want to find me on social media, all of my links are either the links are somewhere. You can find it. I trust you. But also, if you're listening right now and you're trying to, find me on social media, it's at EverybodyLovesJustin13 on Instagram and TikTok. This was episode 3, Modern Love and Other Myths. Capitalism. Okay, bye.